The idea behind this application was inspired by Olympics 2012, and the idea is that the customer will be walking down the street in London and they will use the Torex Groupon application, which should connect to the Groupon server and request promotions based on the current location. So as you can see, we've pulled down a number of promotions here for certain restaurants in and around the area that this device is located. So what the idea would be is the customer would see the general details, the summary of the promotion, and then they'd select the one that they were interested in. And then here you can see that there's a bit more detail, a little more detail of the actual Groupon. From there, the consumer could either go back to the original list and select another, or they can carry on. And the next point would be that we've integrated with Google Maps, which allows us to pinpoint the current location relative to the restaurant that they've chosen. So you can see that there's an icon here to represent the restaurant, and then a pin that we've overlaid on the maps to represent our current location. So the idea is that we'll select the restaurant we're interested in. That will make a request to the Google Maps API and then deliver. It's possible to get the actual address of the location. So from there you can see that we've given some details of the actual restaurant and its location, so we can present a dialogue to the customer and then they can select confirm. And at this point we would then hand the application and let the customer enter some personal details and make a reservation at that particular restaurant. So what we've got supporting this is a back-end web service that will allow us to centralize the the solution for the customer. So we are able then to deliver a message into the restaurant that the customer has reserved the table. So in this case we'll just reserve the table for Mr. Smith with a number of guests 4, and this should send a request through to our server, and now the reservation's been made. So the next part of the solution is really targeted at the maitre d' or the head waiter at the restaurant, and what we thought we would present this application on one of the Samsung Galaxy tablets. So what we've got is an application that's specifically for the waiter. So now the customer has actually reserved a table. We've received that request at the central service. So the waiter could potentially start up an application, and this particular application is continuously polling, and you heard a notification there that what's happened now is that this application's on a background thread continually polling the central service to get the customer reservation. So as you can see, it's saying customers on their way, but we have the functionality to actually make notifications on the Samsung Galaxy tablet, and the notifications can appear in your task list, or they can vibrate as well. So we can see here that we've got the notification. So what that will do then is take us through to the customer screen, and we can see the extra details there for that particular customer. We could say we even posted the actual promotion that brought them in to make this reservation. So picture the scene now where the customer's actually arrived at the restaurant. So what we could do is have another application that allows the waiter to actually open the table and see a table plan for that restaurant. So you could say, welcome Mr. Smith or whoever, and we could have an application that will help us log in, and you can see we've got quite a nice layer to do the presentation and take the credentials. So what this application gives us the option to take an order from the client at the table. So we have a seating plan, and in this case we're going to open table 35, and we're going to select the number of covers, and in this case it was 4. So from here you can see that we can choose a starter, main course and side dish, and also make a payment, split the bill, and we could use RSS feed or Atom feed to update the menus continuously, or whenever we want to post a menu update out there. So what we have here is an iPad application, which potentially the customer could take this when they sit at the table, and this will allow them to interactively select the menu choices. We've got an application here that gives you the table plan, the table number and the customer name. We can put some marketing information for the customer that would be interested in purchasing this solution. And so to start with, we'll just have a general screensaver type start of the application, and there we'll have, in this case we've got pizzas, specials of the day, salads, just to get the customer interested. So if I tap on the side of the screen here, it then allows us to go into selecting the actual, or browsing the menu and placing an order. That's the purpose of the application. So we can still see the specials of the day, and we've got a menu that allows the customer to browse the drinks, appetizers, main course, desserts, chef recommendations. So the idea was you'd go and select the drinks menu, and you can see we're categorised by wines, beers, whiskey, rums, non-alcoholic. We've also got the potentially a feed-in where customers are allowed to share their experience at the end of the meal, and maybe we could take that information at a central service and feed that into the product information that we display to the customer. So we've got a recommendation bar, and we can, as you can see, it's interactive. So we can place an order for 3 glasses of wine, and once we place the order, we can move on to the screen where we're allowed, in theory, to associate the particular item with a person at the table, and we thought this would be a useful tool for the waiter and maybe gives a more personal experience. So the idea would be to drag and drop the items from the menu to the customer. So when we would confirm the order now, what would happen is the waiter would receive a notification, or the barman would receive a notification that the order's come through. So when we choose the main course, as you can see, we're still using the recommendation tool, and we can select the number of covers for the table. So this is just summarising what's possible. We've got an application, presenting it on the iPad device. Obviously it's got that extra consumer appeal to it. But the idea is now the customer will browse the menu, then they'll actually place the order, and we can drag and drop items to each person at the table, and then we can send the order through to the kitchen pass. So now we come to the kitchen pass, and the idea, potentially, rather than having a receipt printer that would normally receive the order and issue the tickets to the chef, we could have an application in a tablet. And as you can see, we've just placed an order on the iPad at the table, and that's sent through to our central service, which has then delivered the order to the kitchen on the Samsung Galaxy tablet. So what we can do with this, it gives us the option to progress each order, which potentially could feed back into the customer application and inform them that their order is now in progress. So what we'll then do is complete the order, and then we'll send a service request to the waiter. So the waiter could be busy doing other things, might not be in the kitchen pass. So what we'll do now, because we've got all the connectivity and the back-end services, we'll send the service request through, and the waiter should now receive a notification. So what happens next is the waiter has their application, and we should be waiting for an order to come through and receive a notification accordingly. As you can see, the order's just been received. So the waiter can see the order that's come in. We've got a number of covers, time the order was taken, and then we've got the total, and this has come from the kitchen application via the central service. So the idea is we present the same information to the waiter, except we've even got the pricing information on the application. So the next steps would be deliver the food to the customer and then wait until they're ready to pay. So to finalise the demonstration is the customer finished eating, they're now ready to pay the bill. The tabletop application would allow us them to notify the waiter that they're ready to pay the bill. So the waiter could arrive at the table and he'd have his application here that has got the summary details of the order. And what we want to demonstrate is the capability of NFC devices, and obviously the Samsung tablet devices will be integrated with NFC, and phones will be in the near future. So we go to a payment screen and we give the waiter the option to select an NFC payment option, and then the device can enter into a mode where it's waiting. It's opened up its 4cm field to detect NFC devices, cards or phones. In this demonstration we have a phone, an NFC phone, so if you would like to swipe your phone, sir. And as you can see, the conversation has now been initiated with the phone device, and the transaction in this case is over £15, so a PIN number would be required to authorise a transaction. So customer enters their PIN number, the payment is processed at a payment authorization server, the response comes back. We give the customer now the option to receive a receipt by text message, SMS or email. So we ask them, this is a question that will be asked of the customer, then we'd send a receipt via SMS, and we'd already have collected the phone number when they made the initial request at the restaurant. Finally, once the customer has received the SMS message as a receipt, we could give them the option then to link through to share their experience with Twitter. What we have done, we've developed a small Android application that integrated with the Twitter API. So you can see we just have a startup screen, a Twitter icon, and an area where we can put some customer feedback in. This will allow us to log on to Twitter, or the customer to log on to Twitter. So we could say Torex tasty meal, and finally we just send a request to Twitter. So what's happening now in the background, the application is actually finding the Twitter API website, which then the customer can confirm their username and the password, and that means we're now allowing the application to talk directly to the Twitter API. So what we would have done now, those details for that request we've actually posted to the customer's Twitter account from this application, which then leads us on to the next part of the demo. So what we can use, or what the customer could use for some marketing feedback, positive or negative, is there's an application on the web called Monitor, and this allows you to register certain phrases, and this application will just trawl through the Twitter posts and then display the content that the customer would be interested in. So in this case you can see that Torex Tasty Meal was actually posted by our Android application, and then it's there for the customer to see the feedback from their customers. The advantage to this is obviously we can take on positive feedback. If we've got negative feedback, you could this would enable our customers to jump on that quickly and maybe issue a voucher for them to come back next time, or and maybe use this, turn it around, turn the situation around. And that concludes the demonstration.